Now 6:30, and I'll call to order this meeting of the Lincoln County Planning Commission. Are we good? You get me recorded? Okay. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. The order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary of the staff report. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and answer any questions from the Planning Commission members. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application, and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have the chance to speak once and should keep their comments to less than 5 minutes. Speakers are encouraged to only address new and relevant information pertaining to the item. Above all, please be cordial to all meeting participants and refrain from side conversations and speaking out of turn, or you'll be asked to leave. Lastly, decisions on rezone applications will be scheduled for additional public hearings during upcoming County Board of Commissioners meeting. Decisions on conditional use permits may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. All right. With that, I will do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan.
Here.
Commissioner Enstead.
Here.
Commissioner Green.
Present.
Commissioner Poppins.
Here.
And Commissioner Jungling is also here.
Always.
Seems that way. Approval of the meeting minutes. Everyone's got a copy of the September 19th meeting. Any changes or adjustments we need to make on that? All right, seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as published. Green.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Enstead.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, we have the meeting agenda for tonight. Mr. Brown, any adjustments, changes?
No adjustments per staff.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda for this evening.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan.
Yes.
Commissioner Enstead.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, at this time, I'll ask for any public input on non-agenda items. So anything that's not on the agenda tonight and you want to discuss or bring up to us, please come up to the podium. All right, seeing none, I will close the floor to that. Any old business? Mr. Brown? Anything?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With that, we'll start our public hearings and look at application number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Toby Brown representing the County Planning Office. This first item for your consideration tonight is an application for a conditional use permit. This is to allow a public utility facility, specifically an outpost building on the property, which requires a conditional use permit. The applicant and property owner is East River Electric Cooperative, Inc. The location is approximately 5 miles to the northeast of the city of Lenox, or it would be the southeast quadrant of the Interstate 29 Lenox exit. Property or parcel size is a little over 10. It's 10.01 acres in size. Subject property has just been recently replatted, and it is currently zoned A1 agricultural. Surrounding property, there is some adjacent dwellings across the county or the township road to the east. There is 2, and then to the northeast, you're familiar with. That is where Southeastern Electric has their offices and similar outpost type building on the property. The purpose for this application again is the applicant has submitted this application to construct a building that will be used as their outpost building, which I would really term that to be a warehouse and storage for mostly their vehicles, and then some outside storage of materials associated with their business. So staff did review this application, have conversations with the applicant, identify that this application is in conformance with the standards and regulations for public utility facility. Staff did post a property as required by the zoning ordinance, and the applicant did mail notices within 500 feet of the property to adjacent property owners. As of this evening, staff hasn't received any comments on this particular application. And so as stated in the staff report, staff does find this application in conformance with the recommended conditions of the staff report, those 8 that are on the screen currently. With that, we'd have to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Just for clarity. This is just going to be for vehicle storage. I guess I'm a little unclear as to what the purpose of the building is.
Yeah, I'll let the applicant kind of go into more detail with kind of but my understanding is it's a facility that they'll be utilizing to store vehicles within the building, and then there will be some outside storage with materials associated with the business. Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I will ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
All right, my name is Jere Wire with East River Electric. I'm the construction and permitting coordinator. I'm from Madison, South Dakota. Thank you, Toby. You hit a lot of our details there. The building will be 150 by 80 foot. Roughly, we would say 10,000 of that 12,000 square foot will be just storage for bucket trucks. The equipment we work with is very large. Bucket trucks, different augers, different pull trailers, semis. 2,000 square feet will be what we consider office. There will be, on any given day, four linemen stationed out of this facility. Not a whole lot of traffic, and the yard will be gravelled, roughly, 115 square foot of gravel around the facility. It will be fenced in as well. Any questions you
All right.
would have?
All right, Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So proximity, how far off of a oil surface road is this? Do you know? Is it, I'm trying to get the cross street on the diagram here, but I want to verify where this exactly is.
Right there.
So just short of a half mile, is that
Yeah.
correct? Is there, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yeah, go please.
Is there something unique about this location that is important to East River Electric to have the facility? We're always very respectful for site-specific because there's a power line or something like that for services. Is there something unique about this? And the reason I'm asking this is this isn't completely required for the location to be there exactly for some of your business. I look at this a little bit similar to just a commercial shop that anybody else would want to put up. And I'm very concerned that appearance for this, in that regard, needs to be up and up as far as what is the essence of this public utility to place a structure out there if it isn't adjacent to a power line? And I don't know that. I'm just waiting for your answer.
The main reason is just the availability of the property from Southeastern. They have it for we're buying it from them. There's no power lines in the area. It's just a outpost.
It's available,
for us.
is the
And it's
line.
available. Yes, that's the.
If I,
East River speak at the same time?
please come up to the microphone.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if we were allowed to have somebody else come up at the same time, but I'm John Saito. I'm with our project services group. I'll kind of be managing the project from our side of it, working as the owner's rep with the contractor. But there is a little bit more to the location from what Dre is saying. We're the regional transmission provider to all the local distribution co-ops in the area. So to be near Southeastern is definitely a benefit to be near them. We do have transmission lines on the west side of the interstate, and then as you know, with this area growing pretty extensively, we have a need to be in the general vicinity. Now, this building will kind of consolidate two different outpost buildings right now between Brandon and Beersford. So we're trying to bring all those guys into one location. We currently rent those facilities, so we're trying to bring them into one spot, be more centrally located, so.
And if I remember right from talking to the teams, so that the farmer that just owned all that property just offered that to Southeastern. I think they just completed that transaction, so now they're in turn breaking off a piece and selling it to East
Yep,
River.
that's correct.
How many trucks will be stationed there? What will the traffic be
So,
on 471st?
so right now, we really only have one line truck, one bucket truck, and one digger truck, and then some like F-350 pickups that would be stationed out of there. As Dre mentioned, the building has more room for possibly a semi or other equipment that we might move in and out of there for projects, but typically right now, there'd be 4 different trucks housed there. That would be the typical outpost.
Will there be a yard, like a wire yard, and
It'll-
for your
yeah, it'll
guys
be-
and your transmission, all that?
It'll all be 6-foot chain link fence with barbed wire around the top, which is pretty typical of our facilities. I can't think offhand if that's what Southeastern has around theirs or not, but I know they've got chain link,
Can't
but I don't
remember
know if it
offhand
has
either.
barb around it. But that is our intent. If you went to the overall site layout once, if you could, or maybe I have control. This one here. So what we're proposing in our plan right now is to do chain link all the way along this north edge, from the northwest corner of the building, all the way to the west property edge, and then down the west edge, and then all the way east, to tie back into the southeast corner of the building. So pretty big yard, but just this 87,000 square feet would be gravelled. The rest of it to the west would just be grass. So,
Have you spoken with the township about access, the 2 accesses to that, and then the wear and tear on the road with the larger trucks?
we have, and this north approach is approved at the moment with the township. The south one, we've talked to them about it, but we haven't got an agreement to it yet. And if we had to go away from it, we could, but our preference would be to have both, but.
And the township agrees, or they don't have an issue with the construction?
Nope. Not that, Trey, you haven't heard any concerns? No.
And if you're going to combine, you said Beersford and Brandon
Yep.
to the central location, so that, and you're going to have office, like 2,000 square feet of office, is that what you said?
Roughly, yeah.
So how many employees will be out there?
It'd be 4 to 6, but only 4 currently.
Okay.
All right, Commissioners, any additional questions for the applicant? Thank you much.
All right, thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application come forward and speak. Seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward and speak.
Marilyn Renback, one of the farm operators on the south side of this proposed structure. We've briefly spoke out front with them. Our concern is the drainage, because when you add structures, parking, water flows. The east half of this property will flow to the ditch there on 471st. The back part might flow to the west. And we had asked them if they would put a ditch inside of their fence along the west and the south and purposely drain it all to the east. Because there is a new, larger culvert pretty close to the half-mile line that would send it under the road and into a tributary of Beaver Creek that would get it right down logically to the proper drainage. They mentioned that they're on a tight budget, didn't know if they could put in just a dirt drainage path. So that's our concern, because being on the south side, wet years, it would become an issue to putting in the crops. My second point is chain link fence, razor wire. I'm glad I don't live on the east side. Not gonna be pretty for those nice homes. Mr. Noteboom is here. I'm sure he would like to see something to camouflage what will be parked there, as well as we're doing razor wire. It won't be aesthetically pleasing to them, and their homes do look to the west. So if you can add something to the chain link, something to make it aesthetically pleasing. And I do have one question for the East River gentleman. To whom did you speak to on the township board?
You'll have to address, ma'am.
Marilyn,
What?
if you can address us with that, we'll ask that question for them.
Okay. I would like to know who they spoke to, because I was on the phone a long time today with the chairperson of the township board. We didn't discuss that, we just discussed other issues in the township. Just curious, and then I would ask him what he's agreed to. 2 driveways, and East River explained to me the north driveway is entirely going to become an access to the rest of the property out west at some future date. Could this structure, the 10-ish acres, be placed to the back of the property? You know, so those homes don't look at trucks, razor wire, et cetera. The road is a very heavily trafficked road with XL Energy runs its trucks up and down that road. Dirt haulers come up and down that road. We have a couple businesses on those roads with heavy equipment too, as well as myself. My tractor's pretty good size, so it is a heavily used road. So just the washboard effect is everywhere right now. And those are my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn, and we'll get some answers to those questions. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? All right, seeing none, then I'll close the floor to public input. And I will ask a motion from the commission so we can have a discussion.
To move discussion along, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer a motion to approve.
I'll second. Green.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Let's have some discussion.
I don't know if everyone else is thinking the same thing I am, but my thought process on this is, you know, we're pretty open to public utilities needing a location because they need to operate in that vicinity for several reasons. I don't know that this falls into that criteria by their own admission. It's because the land was available. It is that. If this is a commercial outfit, I think that wasn't a public utility. This would be a clear decision in one direction, and I don't think it's the way that they would want. That being said, Toby, have we received anything from Southeastern Electric as far as what their plans? I did not know that they purchased that whole parcel. Are they present anything as far as what they're going to do with the whole parcel?
No.
I don't know, right now, I'm leaning that it's hard for me to support this. I don't think it meets some of the basic requirements and scrutiny that we need to do. But I could be wrong. I do recognize the staff saying it meets criteria, but I don't know, I would like to hear what everyone else is thinking.
I agree with you, Mike. If nobody else has anything to say, I mean, I'll talk. I agree. I think just because they have the land and, hey, we can plop it down in here, I don't think that's reason enough to put it there. And yes, it's not, if it was anybody else, if it was going to be a commercial place, putting down a building, we would all have it would be cut and dry for us, really. I mean, we don't, quite frankly, we probably wouldn't even be having really a big discussion over it. It wouldn't be something we would, as you said, wouldn't be going in the way that they would hope.
Yeah, it's my concern. I wish I would have heard from the neighbors that lived directly across the street from it. But, I know if I lived directly across the street from it, I would have concerns. Southeastern does a very good job up along the oil of having planted trees and things up there to mask things. And if that whole parcel is there along the oil, it seemed like it would be a more natural fit to the north on the oil there. But I have a hard time supporting it.
May I ask East River representative a question about the drainage that Marilyn was asking? Do you guys have a drainage plan for the runoff on that?
It's currently in the works with JSA right now. They had a first revision last week, and we've turned it back to them to get a little bit different take on it. So currently, they showed a drainage ditch going kind of between this gravel and the grass, and then going to the east. And we didn't really want that drainage ditch right in the middle of the property here, so we've asked them to take that out and drain it anywhere to that south edge, or if we had to wrap around the west edge, kind of however far back they've got to wrap it to contain the drainage off the site. But as was previously mentioned, I mean, a good chunk of this west area that's grass, we don't have any intention of disturbing it right now, and I'd rather not do anything out there, so we'd just leave it how it drains now and just put a fence around it. So I don't totally know how much they're containing off the site with JSA's design. But otherwise, our drainage is going south into a ditch that would go to the east, and then everything coming off the north side of the building would go towards that north approach there and then drain to the east.
So some of the things that we look at the planning commission is not what's happening, this year or next year. We look what's going to happen 30 years from there. And I know right now your intent is not to do anything with that property, but, as soon as we pass some of these changes, and that property comes, anything you can do with it in 30 years. So that's some things we look at too, how it's going to
Yep.
affect the ag and everything around it. Thank you.
Yep. And then I guess if I can say anything else, I mean, I think we got off a little on the wrong foot of why we're doing it. I mean, it's not just that it's available, it's that that's a central location for our outposts, and we have facilities in the area. We're serving the co-op that's on the other side of the property. When we talked to them about this, I don't believe they own that northeast section currently. It's just the south half, so that's why it's not available to us.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, any additional conversation?
Well, I have to say also, without the drainage really being, taken care of now and finalized, that even makes it harder for me, because we don't want to put anybody else's properties in jeopardy. I mean, that's important. We already have a drainage issue in Lincoln County. We don't need to make it worse for anybody.
All right. Any other discussion, commissioners? Otherwise, I'll do a roll call.
No, Mr. Chairman, I think everyone understands the importance of public utilities, but we also have the responsibility to look at all facets of it. And if there was a need that clearly said it needed to be in that location, I think I could support it. And it may still be able to support it in this location, but we need to have further design and planning for that whole area. Unfortunately, I need to, get some representation from Southeastern Electric now, as to what they're planning on doing with that whole area. I think it needs to be a plan. This isn't a plan, it's spot authorization. May be able to support it later, but we need a lot more information. Today, I can't support it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. With that, commissioners, I'll do roll call. Now, we have a motion, a second, to approve the conditional use permit as written. So a yes vote approves it, and a no vote does not approve it. That makes sense, yeah. All right, Commissioner Hogan,
No.
Commissioner Ensted,
No.
Commissioner Green,
No.
Commissioner Poppins,
No.
and Commissioner Jungling. I'm going to abstain from this vote. All right, application number 2.
Okay, this second item is an application for a conditional use permit. This is to allow warehousing over 10,000 square feet on the property. Applicants are requesting 169,000 square feet. Applicant is Matthew Roach. The property owner is Insight Development Company LLC. Location of this property is approximately 2 miles to the east of the city of Harrisburg. This is directly in what I would call the south, it'd be the south east quadrant of the intersection of 272nd Street and Highway 11. Subject property was rezoned to C commercial in 2021. At that time, the applicants proposed individual-owned contractor shops or essentially contractor shops and storage yards. I've had a few calls on that, and at the time of a rezone, the applicant's required to do a concept plan, but they're not required to stick to the concept plan. It's really all of those uses that are allowed within that zoning district. Subject property is currently vacant. All surrounding properties are zoned A1 agricultural. Their closest residential would be either to the northwest or directly to the southwest. Parcel size is 10 acres in size. Applicants have submitted a site plan with their application. And again, this would be for 169,000 square feet of warehousing, which is essentially personal storage or mini storage units that are rented. This property is within the subdivision authority of the city of Harrisburg. So the Lincoln County has no jurisdiction over the site development of this property, drainage, access, those different types of things. Strictly before you this evening is a land use decision to allow warehousing on the property over 10,000 square feet. Staff did post a property. The applicants did send a written notification to properties within 500 feet. The application has been reviewed by staff and then further discussions with the applicants and the analysis of the staff report. And staff has identified that this application meets all of the standards and criteria for this type of use. Staff does recommend it is consistent with the Code of Ordinances, subject to the conditions that were listed in the staff report. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Brown?
Toby, have you talked to Harrisburg or Spring?
Extensively, yes.
I kind of thought so.
Yes.
And
Could you refer, do you have in front of you at all any information about it? Was there any opposition at the time of the rezone, or what was the vote at that time?
I don't recall the exact vote, other than it was approved. The neighbors were concerned with drainage and some of those issues associated with it. There was some concern with the traffic on 272nd Street. As you're aware, this leads to what I call significant concentrated housing development directly to the east of this property. And so there was some concerns with that. But following up with Commissioner Hogan is that the discussions that I've had with city staff is, when the rezone was approved for the contractor shops, the applicants were working with the city of Harrisburg with their subdivision process. There was, which both sides that I've talked to, there was some disagreement with the process and that, but then that process stalled out, and so the applicants are going back to this process. And the uniqueness of this, again, is that the county has no jurisdiction over a lot of the concerns that the neighbors are going to have this evening, as far as drainage and those different types of things. However, we're all on the same page that we want to make sure that development's appropriate in the county. And so we're trying to work on that part of it. There is a unique part of this is that when the plat was approved for the 10 acres, the city put a restriction on there that any development of the property would have to be approved by the city of Harrisburg. So, and there's, I won't get into the whole legality of that types of an issue. There will be some of that going through. But I think the conditions that we've put on are recommended or appropriate to what the issues are. I did also I did receive email correspondence that I did place before you this evening. And that was from the township and then also from an adjoining neighbor. And I'll have you read that into the record later on for testimony, I guess. Those two,
Okay.
just two letters, I guess. But it did address with the township. The township was concerned with, there was somewhat of an agreement prior with the city of Harrisburg that the road would be paved from the intersection back to the driveway. And so I relayed to the township that's really the township to enforce that requirement because they are a governmental entity and that's theirs. But we did add a condition on there that they have to comply with what the township has, or whatever the township requires. So I think that addresses it at this time, I guess, if you have any more questions. Otherwise, we'll let the public testimony kind of take place at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Toby, so what we're looking at tonight is to just permit this type of use of that land.
Land use, correct?
Land use, okay.
Yep.
All right, commissioners, any additional questions of staff?
Okay.
Thank you, Toby. At this time, I'll ask the applicant or the representative to come forward and speak on the application.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Roach, Sioux Falls resident,
Could I have your address, Matthew?
1517 South Scarlet Oak Place. one of the partners of Pride Built Homes and Insight Development, which is going to be the owners of.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm one of the partners of Pride Built Homes and Insight Development,
Okay.
which is the person that's going to own this. So, essentially, it's storage units on 10 acres of commercially zoned property that we've zoned in 2021. Like they said, we started off a totally different process, went through multiple renditions. I'm sure everybody here is up to date with the process that we had with Harrisburg. And I'd love to answer any questions that you may have regarding that, but we put together a plan, the hours of operation. We went off of national average for storage units of this size. The site would see roughly 9.7 people on average a day. Spoke with the township. They did request that we put an 18-inch culvert under the driveway, which we're perfectly fine with. They asked that they were going to ask you guys if we could pave from Highway 11 to the site, and if that's something that you guys require of us, we absolutely will. If it's not required, we obviously wouldn't do it. Amenities, there's not going to be any employees on site. There is an office on site should we decide to staff it. It's fenced. I believe there's like 70 cameras, all downward lighting, signage facing Harrisburg or Highway 11 and 271. Colors, dark gray and black, something that we didn't want it to stand out against the landscape. So, are there any questions you guys would have?
All right.
Did you
Thank
say
you.
70 cameras?
I believe it's 60 or 70 cameras on site. A license plate reader, as vehicles would come in, it would document every license plate that comes in and comes out.
Commissioners, any other questions of the applicant? Will there be, then there'll just be one gate, one driveway access, and how many units again are you looking at?
802.
And
Range
national
units.
average is 9.7 people a day will visit that?
Yes, based off the number of units that we have. It's actually probably going to be lower than that because we're a cold climate. So for 8 months of the year, we're different than storage units in Florida. But I went off the national average, so it should be less.
What size are these? Are they, I mean, different sizes or?
Yep, so there's 10 by 10s, 12 by 30s, 10 by 25s.
10 by 35, so you still can't get a car in them. Well, you probably.
You could get a car in the, we kind of looked at it as boat storage
Mhm.
and the larger units.
And no outside storage, correct? Everything will
No
be
outside storage.
indoor? All right, commissioners, any? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward. All right, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward.
Hi, my name is Ryan Smink, 27270 South Dakota Highway 11, Harrisburg. Our family farm is just to the south of this property. I have a big concern about the water issue. Currently, the drain tile that's on that property flows through our family farm. I've talked with Matthew in the past. We kind of tentatively had a verbal agreement. Nothing was ever put together in writing, but now seeing the size of this operation and the amount of water that that size of a building is going to shed certainly gives us grave concern.
Okay, thank you, Ryan, appreciate that.
Hi, I'm June Shield, and I live at 27225 South Dakota Highway 11, Harrisburg. My land is right directly to the west of this property. My main concern is also the drainage. I know in the past they've had engineers that have said that it all flows through Sminks, but I have two culverts that are close to this property, and I know I also get water off of this property, and I don't need their water. So I'm very concerned that this is an issue that needs to be addressed before anything can go further. And I know that they've had contact with the city of Harrisburg, and which I was not aware of, that I could have come up and spoke. We've had this property since 1982. My husband and I farmed it for many years. I rent it out now as he's passed away. But I really feel that this is the biggest problem, is the water issue. And you've turned it down on the one before us because of water issue. To me, this is just as much important, if not more. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from our,
Can I actually have Matt come back up for a moment?
yeah, sure. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Matt, have you talked to Harrisburg with this new plan?
Not on the new plan.
Not
I
on
have
the new
not, because
plan?
we were not replatting
Okay.
the property. Yep.
You're aware that they're probably gonna have you do a drainage study again?
We have one, full engineering on the
You do?
10 acres. And
Perfect.
and retention off, so
You do have one already?
we
Okay.
have, Aaron Norman has done a full engineering of this site and all of its water. So we aren't, the last thing we want to do is cause water problems for anybody upstream, downstream, left and right, so.
Perfect, because of course, I talked to Harrisburg today, because I
Absolutely.
knew this was coming.
Yep.
And that was one of their main things that they were concerned about. And I was hoping you guys were gonna be ahead of the game on this one, so.
Yeah, I believe it's on one of the exhibits, but I don't know how to use this computer.
I don't, no, I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I got that, but I didn't see the,
No, just a town.
oh, yeah, we didn't see the drainage one. Okay. Perfect.
Did you want?
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to ask that. I want to make sure you guys are ahead of that.
Can I ask you guys a question?
We'll only stick with the ones we were addressed to you, Matt, so
Oh,
thank you.
no problem.
All right, commissioners, again, I want to remind us, everyone, that drainage is not our responsibility, it's the responsibility of the city of Harrisburg. And we are just looking at if the site fits this type of building use.
Mr. Chairman, comment. But this does bring to light a difficulty. We've seen it with the city of Sioux Falls, we're seeing it with Harrisburg. I'm sure we'll see with any community where we have the zoning responsibility, but then the municipality has the jurisdiction of overseeing the drainage. The city of Sioux Falls, we're working with them, but it's clear that they don't have a mechanism to actually enforce anything outside of the municipality, at least as of yet. There had been some discussion, I don't think they've implemented it. It is one of the unique situations that we have. I don't like it one bit. We're out of the loop, we've rezoned it. This is now a permitted use within those, not permitted, excuse me, conditional use process activity on this type of property. But the drainage is outside of our jurisdiction now. It may make our job a little easier because we'll look at, is this an acceptable use of that property with its current zoning or not? So, but.
It's not gonna make my job easy,
No, it is not.
because I'm on Harrisburg Street.
I know. You may have to think about stepping it down, maybe, actually, even on that one. So,
I agree with you, Mike. We have a little more discussion if we get a motion and,
I'll offer the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
all right. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
agree with you, Commissioner Poppins, on that is, yes, we don't have jurisdiction on this drainage, but it affects everything else that, that we deal with every single day and, I hear you. You
No,
agree?
I assume the motion was with the
With the-
eight stipulations
Yes.
because looking at the Springdale Township Supervisor's request, I do appreciate their consideration of the pavement of that 600 feet or whatever it would be to where the driveway is.
I don't know if that letter was read, that they seen.
Yeah,
the-
that was not put in the record. That's,
I put that in the record now? Okay.
And if Mr. Roach had not said that he would, willing to do it, I may have tried to remove that, because I think that would have been a more appropriate when we were looking at rezoning a piece of property than
Right.
what the use of it. But since he said he was willing, I'll leave it in there. So, thank you.
All right, we do have a letter from the Springdale Township. It's dated, we received an email October 17th, 2022. Says Toby Brown, after reviewing the documents submitted for this application with the other supervisors from Springdale Township, we have the following comments/requests. First, we note that the driveway into the proposed development needs to have an 18-inch culvert installed for proper drainage. We're also concerned about the amount of traffic that will be on the gravel from the driveway going to Highway 11, not only during construction, but once the project is complete. We request that this section of 272nd Street, approximately 660 feet, be made a hard surface road. Thank you, Mark Schessler, Springdale Township Supervisor. All right, commissioners, discussion?
So since we are only here for the conditional use permit, the land use, I just want to say, ma'am, the drainage and everything will go through Harrisburg. You will have a chance to go to Harrisburg if this passes tonight to discuss your. Harrisburg will put that on their agenda.
How do I know that? Because I have called him before and asked him to let me know when this comes up. I never hear a word.
I would say go on the website and watch for the agenda for the planning and zoning meetings, or the second Tuesday of every month. I apologize that I assume Michael's not getting back to you. And that would be the way to.
Nothing for over a year. I don't know any of some of this other stuff even went on.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you know that we are just here for the land use. The rest will be handled by the city of Harrisburg. I just want everybody to understand that for the drainage and stuff. I just asked that question about the drainage because I'm also on the Harrisburg Planning and Zoning. And I just wanted to be ahead of the game also for my own peace of mind.
All right, commissioners, any other discussion?
I just want to go back. So in the motion, other than the permit holder shall comply with road authority's access requirements, improvements, or standards. So I don't see anything about that, about specifically having to have it paved. And in what it was, the initial motion as
It's-
approved, there's no requirement.
It's
Right.
just that stipulation.
Yep, okay, so I just want to make sure we were clear
I
on.
would have probably clarified that he didn't or did
Right.
need to do it other
Right.
than that.
Yep, because, as Toby mentioned, there is dense population directly to the east that continues to travel that road. And, I guess we can leave that up to the township at that point. I'll support it.
And, we do have that option of amending,
Yep. That's,
putting that in if we want, okay? Yes, Mr. Brown.
So I also want to point out, just so it's clear, is that requirement of the plat, the development is approved. That there will have to be some approval with the city of Harrisburg, that legal is going to have to work through that part of it. But, I'll go back to the conditions that we've placed here. So the first being that it complies with the site plan that's dated September 20th, 2022. So if the city of Harrisburg, through their approval process, if they do, change the overall site plan, it will have to come back to you for an amendment at that time. And so then, that would be the way that the additional notification to the neighbors about what the plan is. They won't be involved in that part of it. Now, I'm not gonna promise that happens, because there's probably some legalities to a lot of this process, but, other than that, if you want to, you could also amend your motion to do whatever you want to do with some of those conditions as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. On my end, just in the, say, progress we've made in the last year as a planning commission, trying to get cities to expand their borders outward and trying to discourage islands of growth like this here and there. That's kind of the main way we've been leading the last many decisions, just to prevent islands, which then complicates future growth and future expansion and whatever would happen in the future. I mean, this is all ag now with Highway 100 coming through and all that. That will definitely change. But there'll be a controlled growth instead of spotty islands, I would hope. I know other islands like this storage units have been put up. On those, we did deny those conditions too, and then they were brought to the commissioners, and that was, overruled, I guess I would say. But, in the past, I'm saying we're trying to control that growth and eliminate islands.
I think, Mr. Chairman, a lot of reasons for this rezone initially was there was, at least from my perspective, support from the city of Harrisburg. And that carried a lot of weight for this. I think at that time, otherwise, I doubt that there would have been enough support to get this rezoned otherwise, so. And now we're in a crux of having to deal with it, so.
Yep. All right, commissioners, any other questions or discussion before I do roll call? Seeing none. All right, we have a motion to approve with the conditions as written on the table. So again, a yes will be to approve everything as written, and a no is to deny the application. So Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Yeah, and Commissioner Jungle, I'm a no to not, we're not approving. All right, so the motion passes, correct?
4-1.
Okay. Motion or option, application number 3.
We're clearing the room.
This next item is an application for a conditional use permit. This is to allow an accessory building over 1,500 square feet. The applicants are requesting 2,880 square feet. The applicant and property owner is Dwayne and Rhonda Neuenhouse. Parcel size or location of this property is approximately 500 feet to the east of the corporate limits of the city of Harrisburg. Parcel size is 1 acre. As you can see, the property is zoned A1 agricultural. As you can also see in this next slide is that this property is in a row of a number of single-family dwellings. All of these lots were platted prior to density zoning, and so they're all zoned A1 agricultural, but all developed for single-family uses on those properties. Property is currently has a building under construction on it, a single-family dwelling. The applicant, as shown on this purpose again for this application, is for an accessory building over 1,500 square feet. Again, the applicant is proposing 2,880 square feet on the property. So staff has reviewed the application and had discussions with the applicant. This application is in conformance with the standards or criteria for an accessory building over 1,500 square feet. So the property was signed by staff, and the applicant did send written notice to property owners within 500 feet of the property. As of this evening, staff hasn't received any comments or questions regarding this application. The city of Harrisburg did receive notice on this, and I did have some discussion with city staff, and I don't believe they had any real objections to this application. With that, we'd have to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Maybe under new business, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I failed to mention, so that with the 7 recommended conditions that were in the staff report as well, so. Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I will ask the applicant to come forward and speak on their application.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Neuenhaus, and my husband and I are the applicants for this project.
Can I get your address, Rhonda?
27648 476th Avenue, Harrisburg.
Thank you. All right, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're proposing to put up?
This structure is an accessory building as we have applied for on the property for both storage for our personal and business use. We are not planning to have any clients come to and from the building. It will just be for our family's use. We will not have anything stored outside. We will not have signage regarding the building. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, certainly. So I know in the stipulations, it states, at least I'm fairly certain it was in there, I thought, so building shall only be used for storage of personal property, no commercial uses, commercial storage shall take place. You'd briefly mentioned, you said for personal and business, so is there also a business registered to this address?
No. We own our own business, and so it would be overflow for, we don't even have a knowledge of what will be in there for our business. My husband is a contractor. So if business storage would go into there, I would assume it would be tools, it would be a vehicle. It's just our day-to-day usage needs.
I drove by the property today. Beautiful. I assume you guys live there, I assume?
My father does,
Okay.
or will.
It's a beautiful property.
Thank you.
You know, I think the plan fits for what the properties all have out there, a single-family home with a existing accessory building. So, yeah, I was just curious about your plan based on, the conditions of the no commercial usage, but that might be more conversation for us as a group, but thank you.
All right, commissioners, any other questions for the applicant?
I do,
Yes?
if I may. So help us clarify a little bit.
Yes.
Because there's a fine line between operating a business and just storing something that the business has. And
Yes.
my hands are going active here for some
I
reason.
understand.
So pins might start flying.
Okay,
So, because that is important for us.
yes,
So when you say business storage, we're not something that's gonna go in overnight and take back out, moving back and forth and back and forth. That's, is this something that's gonna be placed in there for at least a little bit of time so that we're not considering an active business where you're using the business for vehicles that you're using actively in the business? Because there is a distinction in my mind of what that is. And that might be hard to do, but it is a defined line that, just to avoid, because you're not the only one that would love to do this.
Right. So if my husband and our two sons need to go get a tool out of there for a project that they're on somewhere else, and they drive up there and get it out, that could be a daily basis. It could not be. Most of our storage is on our existing property of the address that I said where we live currently. We lost our home in a tornado on August 28th of 2021, and our business is housed also in our building that we lost. And we are still currently awaiting finalization and construction for our rebuild of our property. So, right now, we are in dire need of
Something.
storage for personal, instead of having our stuff in our pods on our property. I can ask my husband, he's the one that would be utilizing this building primarily. Do you have something different to say, Dwayne?
Yes, please.
What I can say about that is.
Could we officially get your name and address
Oh,
again? Sorry,
Dwayne.
record.
Noonhouse, and I live on 477th, or 476, 27648, 476th Street, Harrisburg. On that building, it would be 99% mostly for my personal use. Store the camper in. I got a skid loader that I would park inside. Just my personal use. If I have some tools that I would store over there, I might have to go there someday and get it out of there. It wouldn't be like I'd be taking stuff in and out all the time. So most of it's just personal use.
It answers my question, because not as many people are as honest as you. They would simply just said it's personal and ignored the business part of it. So I appreciate being honest with myself and the board as to what might be in there. And again, it's just gonna be storage. It's a situation where we have unfortunately too many that, yep, it's just storage, but yet they're in and out of that building 20 times a day. And that's not what a residential area is supposed to be.
I'm
And
trying-
we're just trying to protect your neighbors and the people coming down the road. So I appreciate the honesty on what's gonna be in there, so.
Mainly camper, boat, skid loader, maybe trailers or stuff like that, so.
Have you guys spoken with your neighbors? I mean, it looks like you're
I
getting
did.
closer to that one property line.
I did talk to Paul, the closest one, right next door. I didn't talk to Don and Jeanette. They're on the other side. Which I should have talked to them too, but I thought since I was so close to the property line of Paul, he was the closest one, so I thought he'd be the first one I needed to talk to.
How big of sidewalls are you building on that one?
It's gonna be 15 tall, and then it's gonna be 40 by 72. 40
Yeah.
wide, 72.
I imagine it's because campers need big doors.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, any other questions of the applicant? See none, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, this time I'll ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward and speak. All right, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward and speak.
My name is Don Graves, 27423 477th Avenue. I'm a neighbor joining property on the south edge of the property. In that half a mile, we have about 12 dwellings with a lot of children, bus, and everybody that lives on there works in Sioux Falls. So I'm worried a little bit with the traffic and also the water runoff. The amount of buildings that's on the property, there's maybe a quarter of an acre that's not roofed. So that water has to go someplace, and it goes my direction. And the culverts and the lay of the land and ditches is it backs up in front of our place pretty good at times. I've had it up right even with the road in my property, my yard. And so a little bit concerned about that. Otherwise, I have no opposition. That's the only concern I have would be the amount of runoff. And again, 12 houses in that area with children, and they play on the road with their bike and stuff at times, and have critters, so it's busy. So that's the only comment I have about it, but otherwise I have no opposition. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Graves.
Thank you, Don. All right, anybody else in opposition of the application? Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from the commission so we can discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, any discussion?
I think the line of question I had is pertinent to what Mr. Grave is concerned about, is that it's storage, stuff stays there, it's not in and out of that structure. But I want to comment, and I appreciate Mr. Graves, although not having a lot of objection to it, took time out of his schedule to come up here. I appreciate the audience and people, neighbors and stuff that take time out of their days, and I don't know that I've ever in 12 years or 14 years that I've served, if I've given enough thanks to people that take time out of their day, either pro or against something, to their evening or day in a commissioner meeting. So Mr. Grave, thank you for taking time, and your family for coming up and sharing with us your thoughts. So thank you.
All right, commissioners, any other discussion?
I still struggle with the conversation about commercial, having been by it today. The current dwelling that's on the property is what I would consider, it's large, I would consider it more of a house than I would anything. And now we're adding additional storage on the property. I have a hard time believing that meeting the condition for no commercial use will be met. And what I get back to is, this is one point where, we actually have some authority with it. Once it's approved and it's built, it's, minus great neighbors like Don that, ultimately if they were to complain at some point because we have built something that now there is a commercial business run out of it, that's what I struggle with. It's, I think we had one of these in the joint commission meeting here a month ago, and I appreciate the applicants coming to this one, unlike that one. But, I don't think I can support it.
I hear exactly, and you heard my questioning, because too many people do exactly what you're talking about. But how do we make that line of, do we believe this one or not believe that one? We allow them, they're not to run a business. Unfortunately, we have to then utilize our office to enforce our rules. And I can say since 2002, we are doing a much better job of enforcing our own rules. We had rules that had carried no weight because we completely ignored them, or had no means to enforce them. That has changed substantially. It definitely still needs to get better, but I don't know that we can deny something because it's something we're afraid of. If we're afraid of it, then we should eliminate it, and so it doesn't become an issue, because people will abuse this. There's absolutely no doubt about that in my mind. These folks, I think, have been open with us about what might be in there. And I've still got some trust in people. In light of some of the things that have happened to me personally, it's hard to believe, but I think these folks understand what it is meant for this building to be used for. And I will support it based on the fact that it does meet our general guidelines, and the only thing that we would have to say no to it is a belief that they're not gonna do what they're supposed to do, and I guess I can't say that.
I think it's more of a belief, though. I think we're at the point of, in my mind, that it's their honesty is what's driving it. And the email, I emailed Toby this morning, or to ask, will the applicants be here? Because I wanted to hear specifically from the applicants, and I want to hear an applicant say, no, there's gonna be no commercial business run out of this. And that's not what I heard tonight. What I heard was, yeah, there's gonna be some, maybe, limited drive-in once a day, and that's not, in my mind, that's not the answer no to number 4. It's, we're being open with you that, we own a business and there might be some business stuff in there. So.
I hear that. So the distinction of is running a business or storing items of a business. Yep, it's a tough decision. I don't know that storing we've got multiple, Toby, what was the decision? Remind me of the gentleman that had his commercial trucks. They're definitely a commercial vehicle. They're gonna be stored in a personal storage unit. We approve that or did not approve that?
Yeah, that application was in the joint jurisdictional area, and the distinction there is that they are commercially plated vehicles, but they're their personal vehicles.
Yeah.
For their use.
But they're used commercially.
They have commercial plates.
Yep. So that clearly, by what we're discussing tonight, wouldn't qualify because it's a commercial vehicle of commercial property being stored in their personal storage.
But it's their personal commercial vehicles that are stored on the property.
Still commercial. And so will the personal tools. So
Yeah,
I hear you. I'm concerned about it. But we've got neighbors that are definitely watching them. So.
Well, Toby, can we put like something in there that we can review this after a year? Or review it to, check on it or whatever to make sure there's no commercial use? Something like that in the conditions, just to, I know Commissioner Green is concerned about the commercial use. I mean, since it is a conditional use permit, we do have the option to go in and check on it and say, okay, hey, you're going against the rules, so you're done. Is there an option to do that? To bring it up for review?
So, the distinction, so to say that people can't use their property for commercial uses would be inaccurate. At some stage, they could apply for a major home occupation and utilize the property for commercial type uses. What we do at this stage is say you can't do it now unless you had a permit to do that. And it would go through the same process, it would be a conditional use permit. What was unique about the application that Commissioner Poppins mentioned in the joint jurisdictional area, you're not allowed to have a commercial use outside of the dwelling. But in the county or the unincorporated area outside of the joint area, you can operate a commercial use on your property as long as you have a conditional use permit for a major home occupation. So what we typically do, and this is routinely the way it's been done over the years, is they apply for an oversized accessory building. And then we put the restriction on there, which is what the ordinance states. They can only use it for personal storage. But at some stage in time, they could apply for a conditional use permit to have a major home occupation there, and then you would decide if that's appropriate for that area. But this is a typical process that we go through. We do investigate. If we do receive complaints, we'll go through that. We typically now we've started reviews of conditional use permits, so we'll, somewhat on an annual basis, semi-annual basis, we'll review all conditional use permits to go on site, make sure they meet all the stipulations that are before you. But this is how we treat everyone this way, which is consistently what we want to do. I appreciate the discussion that you had tonight. It's something that staff grapples with all the time, especially, in today's world where, where cost of property and theft of property, a lot of people are engaging in this type of activity. So, and it's something probably we need to look at down the road as far as how we want to proceed with the ordinances, so we treat everyone the same with it. But again, that's my comment. I guess I didn't mean to go beyond that, but that's, I wanted to make sure that that's clarified, that the public watching doesn't get this impression that, well, wait a minute, I have a business that I have a conditional use permit. You're saying I can't have a business. It's not necessarily completely true, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Don, we've closed the floor for public input unless someone wants to ask Don a particular question. So on the other thing is that before we take our final vote, Dwayne and Rhonda, I would just ask that you do address Don's concerns about drainage, and be a good neighbor and talk with him that way, along with all your other neighbors. I mean, like you said, there's a single gravel road, there's a lot of residential there, and you're building a shed I'd like to have at my house, so. But, yeah, just please work with him on the drainage and be a good neighbor. All right, any other discussion? All right, I'll do roll call. We have a motion to approve the accessory building conditional use permit. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
I think they are honest people, and I think they'll comply, so, yes.
Commissioner Pappas.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. Congratulations.
Prove us right, please.
All right, with that, that's the end of our applications. Mr. Brown, new business?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, since the last planning commission meeting, the Board of Commissioners did have one item on their agenda, and that was a rezone, 2.4 acres. This was the Track 3 at Poppin Goods Edition. This was just to the east of the city of Lenox, what I would call the Lenox Event Center. So the Board of Commissioners did accept your recommendation and unanimously approved that rezone. That was the only item that was before them at the time, so that's all I had.
All right. If there's no other further discussion or anything to bring up, I may ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Green?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you.